Hello guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video on our channel. Today I'm gonna talk about one question that every watch collector, every watch enthusiast will at some point face, and it's a question: do I need a dress watch, and what exactly is even a dress watch? And the answer is quite simple and quite complicated at the same time, because everybody, I mean almost everybody, because some people are blind sometimes, but most of the people will recognize a dress watch when they see one. And what are the criteria that lets you categorize a watch into the category dress watch? And the answer for me is quite simple. First of all, a dress watch does not need a leather strap, but it's mostly on leather straps. You can find some dress watches on rubber straps as well. Yes, that's also possible, but not so common, because rubber straps are considered sporty and, let's say, not so elegant. If we're talking about a dress watch, if we're talking about a Patek Philippe 5117R or 6119 or something, then we will always be talking about leather straps. And for some watches, for example the Patek Philippe L.U.C or the Reverso, there are also options available for steel or massive gold bracelets, matching in the case material, of course. And that is something that sometimes can even look cooler and more elegant than the standard alligator strap that you see on most dress watches. So a leather strap is not automatically an indicator for a dress watch, because we have also watches on leather straps that are not per definition a dress watch, and I would never call it a dress watch. For example, you can find a lot of people wearing the chronomat on a leather strap. Is the Breitling chronomat a dress watch? In my opinion, that's quite obvious that it is a sports watch rather than a dress watch, so that's not an indicator. But most of the dress watches, if you see a watch on a leather strap, you will always start thinking about, okay, could that be a dress watch? Could I combine that with a suit? And the answer is, what would you wear for a suit? And if your answer tells you that the watch that you're wearing can be combined with the suit perfectly, then it's most probably because you have a dress watch on your wrist, or because you have bad taste. Could be both, of course, or because you don't care about dress watches at all and you're like, I don't care, I wear whatever I want and I don't need labels to call the watches I have different categories. And that is also absolutely okay. I've seen people wearing GMTs and Submariners and also Royal Oaks with suits, and it always looked absolutely okay. It was never a piece that was dedicated to the suit, but it was always suiting. So you could never say anything bad about the people wearing sporty watches with their suits. But whenever I see someone wearing a suit with a nice suit watch, then, or a dress watch, then I automatically think, okay, this guy must have a big know-how about watches in general. He must have a collection. He must be familiar with a lot of things in the watch industry, because that's something that you will do when you take your time and deep dive into the world of watches and what watches there are and what options you could have for what budget. And that's what also makes a dress watch, that you can combine it and wear it with a dress, with a suit, without, or effortlessly, let's say effortlessly. And what does that mean in general? It needs to be decent and not too flashy, because if a watch is too flashy, let's take yellow gold Daytona for example. That's a beautiful watch. The yellow gold Daytona, especially with a white dial, it's clean, it's beautiful, it looks like high luxury, it's an amazing watch. The problem is it is sporty. It is not in any condition you could call it a dress watch, because it's not even thick, but it's a little thicker, and the bracelet is quite massive. It makes the watch look big, and officially 40 millimeters, it's also quite on the big side for a dress watch. If you go to the classical dress watches, you will see sizes from 34, 36, 38 millimeters, sometimes 40 millimeters, but you will have a hard time searching for a very classic and simple clean watch with 40 millimeters in diameter. And that's why most people go for the smaller ones. Also, they need to look fitting and suiting for your wrist, and most people, when they wear 40, 41, 42 millimeters, it's, let's say, critical. It's not too big for most people, but it's on the edge of being too big for most people. And now to get into detail on what other things a mechanical dress watch needs to have, in my opinion, it needs to be fairly slim, so you can slide it beneath your shirt, and you need to be able for the dress watch to read it effortlessly. For example, if it's a chronograph, for me a chronograph is not automatically a dress watch, or not automatically a non-dress watch. It's not sporty by default, but most chronographs will look sporty, will look a lot more. Let's take, for example, the Moonwatch. The Moonwatch, you can wear it on a leather strap, but it's never gonna be a dress watch, because with a tachymeter bezel, you have something that's always reminding you of racing sports, and that's something that the dress watch does not have. If you look at the dress watches, you see that most of them are very simple, very minimalistic, and that is something that the dress watch also has. We have a few exceptions, of course. There are dress watches with extremely nice and rare and complicated complications, and they belong to the dress watch, and the dress watch can also have complications, but in the end of the day, most of them, if we look at it statistically, most of the dress watches that we would see and identify as dress watches are time only, and maybe they have a date window, but never more than that. A small second, that's also something that a lot of dress watches have. A small second is, as a matter of fact, something that more dress watches have compared to sports watches, because that's making the watch more elegant, a little bit more traditional, and I think that's what dress watches are supposed to look like, and sports watches can be more flashy, more in your face, and you know what I mean. You get the point. So let's start with the most legendary dress watches, and of course examples that we have online right now. We have the Reverso in two versions. We have it one time with the see-through case back, where you can see the movement. This is actually one of the nicest things that I've ever seen, because on the one side you can have a look on the dial, you can read the time, of course, as you need to, and the moment you flip it, you see the movement and you get an impression of the technology and of the mechanical work that was put into this piece. And this is something that for me is very nice. Most people will prefer to have the closed back or even a second face, but that is up to taste. That's nothing that will determine if it's a dress watch. For me, the Reverso as well, I have to say, is one of the most clear model lines that there are. So for example, if you give me a Reverso that is quite sporty looking, for example the Squadra, this is a sports watch. At least officially I think it is considered a sports watch, but for me the Reverso will automatically always be a dress watch, just as much as, for example, the Tank. The Cartier Tank is also something that you find often as dress watches, but there are versions that you can wear also on a daily basis as a daily beater, especially if you take the ones with the massive steel bracelets, because they are not built to look elegant, they are built to be durable and to be wearable every day, and that's something which is, for me, that's not suiting the model line and the design, but for Cartier it worked out in the past, so I would say why not. And then we can continue with a brand that a lot of people forgot in the last few years, which is a shame, because in my opinion they have one of the most unique designs and model lines that there are, and of course I'm talking about Franck Muller. We have right now two Franck Muller in our shop. The one is one of my favorite watches of all time, especially if you're thinking about going to Las Vegas, then you should get this watch, because it's basically a chronograph, but instead of keeping the time, it's showing you results of a roulette game, which is supposed to be absolutely generic. It's completely up to luck what you're gonna get, and I think this is insane watch. And then we have also a second Franck Muller, which is a date, triple date you can call it, with showing the day, the date of course, and also a few other functions, which is quite interesting. And for the budgets that you get those watches, for a full gold watch you pay around 10,000-11,000 euros, for a steel watch way less than that, with quite some complications on them. And for me the Franck Muller watches are mostly dressy, and you can wear them dressy, but you can also wear them daily. For me, for example, the Franck Muller Vegas is one of the models that you can wear in every occasion, and you can also wear it to a suit and nobody's gonna think about it too strongly. But you need to consider that it could seem inappropriate if you're wearing a watch that is thematically dedicated to gambling on a business meeting, so I think we could leave the watch at home for those occasions. And we're gonna continue with a brand. Now we're switching to German brands, because of course as a German dealer we need to promote those as well. We have the first one, the Nomos Lambda, and something that's very important noting when we're talking about Nomos is that there are two different production lines for Nomos watches. We have the standard watches for 1,000 to 3,000 euros, and then we have the Lambda, which is the flagship of the brand. It has a completely different level of production. It's like the quality is insane. If you have a look on it with a microscope, with a magnifying glass, you will see that the quality is really, really good. Then on top, the lambda exists in multiple precious metal variations. So that's it. Then we have a completely made out of scratch movement made by Nomos for the lambda itself. And that's something that I don't know if it's a common fact and if everybody knows it, but producing a movement is not the expensive thing. The expensive thing about the movement is to get the technology, learn how it works and see that it works on a long time scale. And that's something that costs a lot of money. So not even all watch brands have 100% manufactured movements in their watches. And that is something that a manufacturer can be very proud of because they have something that they can use and only they can use. And that's also something that makes a watch valuable, that makes it more valuable, because you cannot get a watch with this movement from another brand. You must get it from this brand. And that's why the Nomos Lambda is a lot more expensive than all the other model lines that they have. But all the model lines that they have in general are dress watches, or at least supposed to look like dress watches. And the Lambda is no exception to this. It's a very beautiful watch with a blue, full blue, like a really elegant blue dial. And it's not as, let's say, strict and classic as other watches that I will show later as well. But it's, in my opinion, it's a very nice combination of style and also tradition and, let's say, classic optics. And then we will switch to another German manufacturer. It's Glashütte Original. It's the smaller brother of Lange und Söhne, as I say sometimes, because they go to the same direction design-wise, but they're never quite the same. You can get very beautiful pieces. Right now, the one that I want to show you is the Glashütte Panoramic Lunar, which is one of the most beautiful watches they have, with the gray dial, with the moon phase, which looks insane with every Glashütte Original watch that I've ever seen. So in my opinion, for the money you pay here, you get a beautiful watch and a really nice watch. And if you're looking for a dress watch, you don't always need to go for the high-end manufacturers like Patek Philippe or Vacheron Constantin. You can also stay with the upper middle class brands and manufacturers, and you get a lot more for your money. Especially, for example, the Glashütte Panoramic Lunar is a watch that you can wear if you have a bigger wrist. It's something that you cannot do with a Patek that I will show you soon, because of course you know that if we're talking about dress watches, we have two brands that need to be there, and one of them is of course Patek Philippe, and the second one is, by the way, Jägerle-Coultre for me, in my opinion. And what Patek Philippe watches do we have? First of all, we have the 5117R, which comes in rose gold. It's under 20k for a beautiful watch with box and papers. For me, one of the most iconic watches that Patek ever produced. It looks like, if you see, for example, other Calatravas that they produce up to this day, the 6119, for example, you have a very similar design language and you pay a lot less for that one. The only downside is it's quite small, but you can wear it with almost every wrist sizes. If your wrist is over 20-21 centimeters, then you might have problems, but most people can wear it without a problem. Then we have the 5026J, which is one of the more special watches that Patek produces in the past. It has Arabic numerals on them, so not the classical Roman or stick indexes that are indices which are popular on dress watches. It's a watch that wants to be more sporty, that wants to incorporate a little bit the racing spirit of the model, and not that the Calatrava is a racing model, it's more of this exact reference number is supposed to look more sporty. And now let's come to the last brand, and after the last brand I will go for the, let's say, last two special watches because they are extremely special and I want to show them. First of all, I will talk about the last brand category, and it's gonna be the Chopard L.U.C, because the Chopard L.U.C is the model line from Chopard that promises to be dressy, that promises to be elegant, that you can wear more classic, in a more classic manner. And this is something that they did very nice in the last years. We have, for example, two times the 1860, the original one with the original manufacturer caliber, which is insane, with 70 hours of power reserve, with because it has two springs, main springs. Then you have a micro rotor, you have a seal of Geneva, and you also have the COSC certification, which makes it double precise, which makes it double certified. And this is something that you see with a lot of high quality brands like Patek Philippe for some time, but most brands stopped doing this because the Geneva seal forces you to you operate in a way that you don't want to operate. It forces you to buy and produce more in Switzerland than in other countries, and that's something that a lot of brands do not want to do anymore. They want to cut costs by producing cheaper. And if you see the Geneva seal on it, you can be sure that it is a real authentic Swiss watch. And if we are being precisely, if you buy a watch without a Geneva seal, then you cannot be sure if it's a Swiss watch or it was just assembled and put together in Switzerland. So think about it. That's actually one of the reasons why a lot of people get the 1860. There is also a new 1860 that came out, I think, in 2023 with the salmon dial. But honestly speaking, it's very nice. It's beautiful. It has an amazing, it looks like if you put them next to each other, you see that they are almost exactly identical. But in the end of the day, I would always go for the vintage piece because it's the original one. And the next one is an homage, or let's say a successor to the beautiful heritage that this model line has. But it's still just a successor and not the original one. So that's why I would always get the 1860 in vintage. And also we have other L.U.C, not 1860s, but other L.U.C. For example, now I need to read the name because my French is not so good. It's Qualité Fleurier in green. I think that was completely wrong. If we have any French people in the comments, please tell me that it was terrible so I can be sure and never repeat it again. And that's the last watch of Chopard that I want to show you, because even if it's not with the Geneva seal, even if it's, let's say, a watch that you get from Chopard quite easily right now, you have an extremely nice level of quality. You can see the movement of the L.U.C, and you also see the beautiful dial. Do not forget to see the beautiful dial that not every brand can reproduce like this. And let's now change to the last two watches I want to talk about. Those two watches are more or less dress watches, but just to show you what is possible with a dress watch. We talked about classic traditional design, but I also said you don't need to have the classical design. It can be part of the dress watch, but some dress watches are built to be more present, to show more, let's say, more presence, and just make you feel, or make the people around you see, okay, this guy, he's the real deal. And I will talk today about two beautiful watches. The first one is the Cartier Dumont with the reference WGSA 0086, I believe, which is a beautiful watch. Never seen it in live, except of course the one that we have in stock right now. It's completely made of platinum, which is surprising. The moment you touch the watch, you're like, oh, that's way heavier than I would have expected it. And the Cartier Santos is, for me, for example, a watch that you can always wear with a suit. But the Dumont is a model line that I would see as the perfect dress watch from Cartier, together with, of course, the tank models. And that's why I like it. And also see that there are Arabic, like the real Arabic indices on the dial, which makes the watch extremely rare and extremely, let's say, interesting to the eye. It's not nothing that you would just look at and be like, okay, that's a dress watch, that's it. But it's an eye catcher as well, but which is not common for a dress watch. But in the end of the day, the watch can be worn perfectly fine with a suit. And if you do that, then it can be, or you can wear it as a dress watch. And I would, for example, wear it only with a suit or only as a dress watch. I would, for my part, by the way, no, that's not true. I would actually wear it also without the suit, because otherwise I would never wear it. So let's go to the last watch, and I don't think so. I know it's the most expensive one that I have on my sheet right now. It's the 5935A, which is a Patek Philippe World Timer flyback chronograph with the steel case. That's what the A means in the reference number, with the steel case. And now comes the nice part, with a beautiful salmon colored dial in a extremely nice set and condition. And this is one of the watches that show you Patek Philippe dress watches can be more present, more flashy, more sophisticated than just the simple ones. You can go crazy with the dress watch as well, but if you are thinking about wearing it exclusively for a suit, then you might want to be very classical, very traditional, and therefore go for another one. That was by far not every dress watch that we have right now in our shop. If you want to see more of them, if you want to see the ones that I showed you, or even other pieces, then go to our website or to our Instagram channel. Also, do not forget to download our app so you don't lose any watch drop that we make. And if you like this video, I would be very happy if you give me a thumbs up. And of course, I'm also looking forward for the next video when I see you next time. Have a good time until then, and bye bye.